Good evening to you all. It's really an honor for me to be here tonight. And I want to thank the organizers, the Jerusalem Post, for the incredible meeting and for the opportunity to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. But I guess I should start by introducing myself. So this is me. My name is Irit Bahar. I'm the head of the Ophthalmology department in Beilinson, Sharon, and Schneider's Hospital. I actually grew up in Beilinson. I started my residency back in 2006. And after finishing my residency, I traveled to Toronto for 2 years fellowship in corneal and external eye diseases and in corneal transplantation. Shortly after returning from the fellowship, I completed my MHA degree and almost simultaneously became a full professor at Tel Aviv University. As a part of my academic career, I'm involved in many studies and projects in the field of my expertise, both nationally and internationally. And this is also me. I'm happily married to this guy. His name is Gideon, and he happens to be the head of the ENT department in our hospital. So you can imagine our fascinating conversation around our dinner table. I'm also a mother of 4 boys. My eldest son is Or, and he's a third-year med school student in Prague. Our second son, Nir, is a combat soldier in reserve. Guy is serving these days in the army, and he's a DJ in the army. And Alon is the little one, and he's the hero of today's story. So you'll hear all about him later on tonight. Because you see, an outside observer might look at these 2 women and think they are completely 2 different people. But still, they are both men. And today, I want to share with you a small part of the way that led me to both of them. But first thing first, let's talk some numbers. Although the proportion of the female in graduating med school students is increasing steadily, when it comes to managing position, only 20% of hospital CEO, 16% of department chairs, 21% of full professor, 20% of senior authorship, and only 10% of editor-in-chief are women. And why is that? Well, for many reasons. The main reason is what we call the maternal wall. And these are some bricks that consist this wall. First, we are giving shorter than recommended paid leave, usually 3 months instead of at least 6 months. Paid leave are restricted to the primary caregiver, which is almost always the woman. In many hospitals, there is no such thing like part-time senior position. And even if one wishes to manage both career and family lives, facilities like babysitter or kindergarten are not easily accessible and definitely not tailored for the woman who's a doctor. And finally, we have the notorious double standard in which you are considered lazy if you choose to work part-time and a neglecting mother if you work full-time. Another reason is the historical gender-oriented roles, which surprisingly are still very relevant today, and it means that still in 2025, women spend significantly more hours per week on parenting and domestic tasks. Another and last reason is the working place environment in which many organization culture is dominant by male and lack female mentoring. Lower salaries are offered for women for the same position as their male colleagues. And there is also the issue of sexual harassment, which gets more recognition nowadays thanks to Me Too and Med Too. Because women are 7 times more likely to be harassed by colleagues and superior, and they have even higher chances of being harassed by patients and their families. So ultimately, all these reasons, lower motivation, increased burnout, and hurt retention. Now, these are big problems, and they should be treated by government and by law and by hospital policies. But I want to focus today on our part, on what women do or should do differently in order to get a larger piece of the pie. Because studies show that women will go through 25% more job description before applying to one. And while a man will apply for a job if he thinks he matches 60% of the requirements, a woman will do that if she is 100% sure she fits the profile. And all of that, while in fact, a woman has higher chances. She has 35% higher chances of being invited to an interview and actually to get a job. So all these facts together just reflects that we suffer from self-doubts, lack of self-confidence, and we're constantly underestimating our personal capabilities. And this leads me directly to my personal story, which I wish to share with you today. So the year was 2016. I was the head of the cornea unit in Beilinson at this time. And my boss, Professor Dov Weinberger, was retiring, and a tender was issued for the position of the head of the department. And I really wanted that job. Honestly, I prepared myself my whole career up to this moment. I was working hard, I was highly appreciated, and I really filled all the requirements to actually get the position of the head of the department. And just before the deadline, the submission deadline had expired, I got this. Now, make no mistake, this was way before COVID-19 antigen test. This is an old-fashioned good pregnancy, positive pregnancy test. Now, my first reaction was that the game over. I felt that the tender, the position, the promotion are all gone. When I recall on that day, I sadly remember how even an abortion was an option. And I said sadly because I knew I was not getting any younger and I knew I wanted another baby. But just the possibility of having them both, it seemed just so big. It seemed like mission impossible. And thank God, after a couple of hours, things cleared up and I asked for an urgent meeting with the hospital CEO. I walked to his office. I'm pretty sure I looked very confident at that time. And I told him I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant and I'm willing to bear the consequences. To my surprise, he looked at me and he asked me if I think I can manage them both. And when I answered that, of course, that I'm convinced that I can, he said, as long as you deliver, why should I bother what do you do in your personal lives? As long as you deliver, why should I bother? That's Dr. Eran Halperin. That's what he said. So I looked at him at this moment and I understood that I was the one putting the glass ceiling above my own head. Well, the end of this story is a happy one. I got this little wonder. His name is Alon, and I got the job that I really wanted. And it's very, and it's very important to me to tell to you, just to emphasize today how I feel grateful and privileged to grow within Clalit organization that really supported me as a woman from day one and didn't impose any ceiling above my head. And yet, when I sat down to make this presentation, it was important for me to try to specify what was there along my way, what helped me deliver both at home and at work. So here are my insights. First, it takes a village. It really does. I built the widest safety net I could, babysitters, grandparents, friends, whoever could help. And I think that without the extensive support I got along my way, I couldn't fulfill my ambitions. A supportive partner, this is a critical point, really a critical one. I was lucky to have a partner who really wanted for me what he wished for himself. And we were actually equally invested in each other's career from the day we met. Work-life balance, well, it took me a while to find my own accurate balance and to juggle them both. And I think that the sooner you understand that there is nothing constructive in guilty feelings, but prioritizing tasks is the way to go, that's the better. I also adopted the proactive approach, which means that I didn't wait for things to happen to me, but I asked to be promoted. Of course, if you want to play in the big league, you have to be like this, to act like this, and it means being at least as professional as your male colleagues, and sometimes even more. I also believe that women, we have unique advantages that we should use for our benefit, like emotional quality, like interpersonal relation, right, like attention distribution, less ego, and many other more. And finally, I want to acknowledge my mentors that were there and helped me pave my way, Professor Dov Weinberger, Professor David Rothman, and Professor Ellen Slomovic. I really think that mentorship is mandatory in medicine, and I adopted this approach in the education of residents in our hospital and in my duties as in the management of the department. So I really think that we should voice out loudly our dreams, know our worth, and claim the position we deserve. Now, this could be a nice ending to this talk, but I wish to add something more for the next generation, because as it turns out that when we see a woman in a key position, we can see what we call a positive spillover or negative spillover. Positive spillover, it means being a role model, complying female need, and acting for social similarity. A negative spillover, it means that by putting a woman in this position, many organizations feel that they have done their part in the fight for equality. And sometimes we have the responsibility for not sharing and not allowing the promotion of other women around us. And this is really important. I wish I could tell you that in real life we are doing more positive than negative spillover, but the situation is not like this. And I think that we, the women in this audience, we should do whatever in our power to try to shift this trend towards the positive one. And this is really the end, and this is my last slide. I want to thank you all, and I want again to emphasize that it's not just about equality, it's about unique perspective, it's about empathy, it's about care that women bring to medicine and to the world in general. And I think that together we are not just taking a bigger slice of the pie, but we reshaping the entire recipe. So thank you very much. And we are not going to forget the hostages back in Gaza, in the tunnels, and we pray for their safe return. Thank you very much.